Hello, everybody. I heard about Joe Biden's proposal for a 1.9 trillion economic rescue package, and I haven't done any research on it yet. But the reason why it caught my attention is one, because I think we should all be bets against hedging bets with the possibility of this huge stimulus package. But we should also but what also interested me was the fact that they're going to be introducing hazard pay and actually back pay on hazard pay. And there was a video with Joe Biden claiming that he would be awarding hazard pay. And my employer, my security, my employer at the time, he their company, I'm not going to give the name, I almost did, but the company I worked for had offered a hazard pay, but it wasn't really a hazard pay. It was more of a, they would match your 401k to a certain extent. And it wasn't even just that. It was the 401k match rate wouldn't have changed at all. It would just stay the same, but the amount that they had in that budget to match employee 401ks had just increased. So if you didn't opt in for 401k through the company, it wouldn't have mattered in the first place. You wouldn't be rewarded anything for working the front line. And also in 2021 and 2020, when the stock market had crashed, you're better off having money in shooting. You're better off shooting barrel. You're better off shooting You're better off shooting um, apples in a barrel. I don't know if that's the right saying, but you could pretty much pick any stock, and you would make better returns than a 401k could provide for you. So I didn't opt in for it personally because one, I can manage my money way better than a 401k ever could because I put the work into it. I believe that in 2020 and 2021, most people probably could shoot fish in a barrel, as a saying, and find better return on investment. And I already work as a side business about managing people's portfolios at this point. I'm not a financial investor. I'm not a financial advisor, of course, but these are things that I do on the side. So, you know, um, I believe that a lot of companies had opted in to do something like this, where where they really didn't reward any kind of hazard pay. They just gave some kind of BS, and I don't know. It wasn't our company didn't do anything for us, basically. So anyway, with that being said, there's two articles that I found, and I haven't really looked into it yet, but I will be now. So let's see. This one's by CNN, and it's called Here's What's in Biden's 1.9 trillion economic rescue package. And again, I haven't looked into this, so excuse me that I haven't done the breakdown of the package itself. But let's see. Bigger stimulus checks, more aid for the unemployed, the hungry, and those facing eviction. Additional support from small businesses, state and local governments, increased funding for vaccinations and testings. These are key parts of a 1.9 trillion proposal that the President-elect Joe Biden unveiled Thursday evening. Billed as the American Rescue Plan, the package arguments many of the measures in Congress' historic 3 trillion C virus relief bill from March, and in the 900 billion legislation from December, which was scaled back to garner support from the Senate Republicans. Okay. Now that the Democrats control both chambers and the White House, Biden is pushing for big steps he says are needed to address immediate needs and control the coronavirus pandemic. He also plans to lay out an economic recovery plan in coming weeks that aims to create jobs and combat the climate crisis along with other measures. Okay, that's good. At least he's supposedly promising what he would do, right? Create new jobs that would also be beneficial towards, moving towards a greener society, and which is definitely going to have to implement new technology, and you're going to need better education for that as well, and skilled labor, but we don't know for sure. The plan calls for sending another $1,400 per person to eligible recipients. I didn't even get my first. This money would have been in addition to $600 payments that were approved by Congress in December and sent out earlier this month, for a total of $2,000. The new payments would go out to adult dependents that were left out of the earlier rounds, like some children over the age of 17. It would also include households with mixed immigration status after the first round of 1,200 left out checks of the spouse undocumented immigrants who do not have social security numbers. Okay, so I don't think that's addressing that the initial 1,200 for those who had filed late. I don't believe that they're going to be getting an additional. So if they're getting a $1,400 stimulus check, I don't believe that they're going to add a 1,200 additional from the first stimulus check, and that sucks for you because by the time you do get it, I believe that is a tax credit, so you won't even the value of the $1,200 is gonna go down drastically because the value of the dollar is going down. So that sucks. I mean, that $1,200 may not even it won't even be worth as much as it what would have bought you back then, and that sucks. Enhanced unemployment aid. Biden would increase the federal boost to jobless to receive $400 a week from $300 weekly enhancement contained in Congress relief package from December. He would also extend the payments along with two key pandemic unemployment programs to September. This applies to those in the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program who have exhausted their regular state jobless payments and the Pandemic Assistance Program, which provides benefits to the self-employed, independent contractors, gig workers, certain people affected by the pandemic. Lawmakers only provide an additional 11 weeks of support in the December package, which will last until March. That's good. I mean, that's good for people on unemployment, but what about the people working the front lines? I mean, again, people have been receiving the first round of unemployment, right? You're receiving your standard unemployment with a $600 CARES Act bonus per week. Then it went down to 400 to 300, I believe, and now it's back up to 400. So, you know, most people who work these frontline jobs are making anywhere from 10 to 15, $16 an hour, if not less. Okay, I live in one of the most expensive states in America, and the average grocery clerk worker makes around like 12 to 13 bucks. If you times that $10 by 40 hours a week, that's $400. An additional $2, what is that, like $440 a week? I don't know. I'm just rounding on the top of my head, but those people are working hard. They're risking their lives. They are working harder than ever under these strenuous conditions, but they're only receiving their average paycheck of $440. Well, if you were to collect the unemployment benefits of $400 a week, or $600 a week, or even $300 a week, you would still make a flat. You would basically be making more than half of what you would as a majority of the frontline workers working these low-end jobs. And then you'd also receive an additional unemployment benefits as well. So you're receiving the benefits from the unemployment and from the CARES Act. So how is that fair for those who are working, while those who are staying at home receive more money passively, can use that money to invest in the stock market, have time to focus on skills, work on their trade or skill, spend time with their family? Look, I've been out of work for the past 3 months now. Okay, because I've done financially well for myself. I would have made way more money in the stock market if I was on unemployment benefits. I would have made way more money, but things had worked out for me. Even though I made less than a lot of my peers on unemployment benefits, by working the front lines, I still managed my money properly. I made gambles, I made risky bets in the stock market, so now I don't have to work and I can focus on other things that matter. And what have I been doing in this free time? I've been working on myself. I've been working on my physical health. I've been helping my family out. I have been working on my mental health. I have been relaxing finally, and now I'm going back to college. Okay, so I have all these things. I have all this free time to do all these things I want to do. Now that I made risky bets in the stock market, while other people who work the front lines just like me in 2020 and now in 2021 are still receiving less money per week than those on unemployment benefits. How is that fair? That doesn't make any sense. Hazard pay should have been a thing. Rental assistance and eviction moratorium. The plan would provide $25 billion in rental assistance for low and moderate income households who have lost their job during the pandemic. That's an addition of the $25 billion lawmakers provided in December. Another $5 billion would be set aside to help the struggling renters to pay their utility bills. Biden also calls for $5 billion to help states and localities assist those at risk of experiencing homelessness. The plan would extend the federal eviction moratorium set to expire at the end of January to September 30th, as well as allow people with federally guaranteed mortgages to apply for forbearance until September 30th. That's good, because even people who are working at the moment, who as the cost of goods and services and the cost of living rises, if they're getting paid pennies, if they're only getting paid minimum wage to work as a frontline employee, then thank God, because one fourth out of all essential employees statistically aren't doing well financially, and they're making less than those on unemployment. So that's even more concerning. And it's not like they have free time to focus on their education or work on a skill so they can produce more money, because they're busy working for you and I. Help for the hungry. Biden would extend the 15% increase in food stamp benefits through September instead of having it expire in June. He would invest another $3 trillion to help women, infants, and children secure food, and give territories $1 billion nutrition assistance. And he would partner with the restaurants to provide food for needy Americans and jobs to laid off restaurant workers. Good. I mean, I think this is good. Again, a lot of the restaurant workers I know who made minimum wage are still making more the money on unemployment benefits than a lot of the people I know who are working the front lines. But that's good, because this is not really a fault of their own. This is poor government handling. I mean, again, Trump says that the virus doesn't exist that one day, and then he wants to blame China for it the next. So, it's not really... there's clearly a lack of leadership at the very top. More money for childcare. Okay, that's great. The plan calls for Congress to create a $25 billion emergency fund and $15 billion to existing grant programs to help child care providers, including family child care homes, to pay for the rent, utilities, and payroll increased costs associated with pandemic personal protective equipment. It also proposes expanding the child care tax credit for 1 year so that families will get back as much as half their spending on child care. Okay, I mean, these are great. I mean, I don't know if they're great. I would have to sit down and actually do the math behind all of it. But this sounds good for a lot of people, because I guess if we're gonna print money, it might as well go to the people rather than the people at the top who don't really need it, right? A temporarily increase of tax credits. Great. So I should file my taxes. Let's see what they're talking about. Biden wants to boost the child tax credit to $3,600 for children under the age of 6, $3,000 for age between 6 and 17, and the credit will also be fully refundable, as he proposed to raise the maximum earned income tax credit close to $1,500. Okay, I'm not gonna read all that, but that's great. That's great if you are, especially if you're a younger adult in a lower income bracket. That'd be great for you, because you're probably gonna need as much money as you can get. Subsidies for health insurance premium. Biden's also calling for Congress to subsidize through September premiums of those who lost their work-based health insurance. Great, because I don't have any kind of health coverage at the moment. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird how we're a first world country supposedly, but for some reason we can't even provide health care for coverage for everybody, which is a little concerning. I don't know how we can't have a two system where we have both, a premium healthcare package for those who want to pay for their medical, and a universal basic healthcare for people who can't afford these things. Restoration of emergency paid leave. Okay, I'm not going to skip that. More assistance for small businesses. Great. I knew a lot of people who were exploiting these PPP loans, but you know what? There's always going to be exploitation of the system. I know a lot of Republicans. I know a lot of conservatives, supposedly. I believe in capitalism to an extent. I believe that there's a time for everything. There's a time for socialism. There's a time for capitalism. There's a time for communism. And I believe that you could use multiple economic systems in any kind of society. But so I believe that every system has its place in a time, given the circumstances. But I find it funny that I know a lot of Republicans and conservatives who weren't living very conservatively and tried to milk these government programs as much as possible. It doesn't sound very conservative to me. It doesn't sound like a very Republican value to have to me. But I guess people want to pick and choose when they want to be a conservative and when they're not. So, yeah. aid for states and local schools. Great. So they want to give 350 billion dollars to state and local, territorial governments. I'm not gonna read all this, but hopefully, this applies for colleges as well. I don't think it does. Oh wait, let's see. The plan would provide an additional 170 billion to K through 12 colleges and universities, help them reopen and operate safely to facilities remote learning. Holy moly. Wow, my dollar is going to lose value, but the stock market's going to go up. So make sure you have money in the stock market. That's great because I recently applied for my classes on college, and all these classes are online. So I find that the education. Okay, there's two things. Okay, that really bother me. One is that the tuition rate has stayed the same; it hasn't decreased. And two is that the standard of it colleges should be looked at as businesses. Okay, and if you have a college, if you have resources and tools and same goods and services and products and services that are free online and arguably better than what a lot of colleges can provide, if your colleges are online and the quality of the products and services have gone down tremendously, well, why aren't they reducing the prices of education? They should, because if you can learn everything online that you could, if you had to take online classes and the quality of the service has gone down tremendously, why are we paying the same rates as if we were getting that same service? It seems like this business needs to be boycotted, in my opinion, because everyone's getting screwed over. Increase support for vaccines and testing. Great. $20 billion into that. Good. A $15 hourly minimum wage. Biden is calling on Congress to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and end the tipped minimum wage and sub-minimum wage peoples with disabilities. All right. Didn't talk about hazard pay. Oh, here we go. Let's see this one. I don't know if I want to read all this. An extension of 15% in supplemental nutrition assistance program. Listen, there's just too much to read here. So let's see this. Biden is also calling on employers to meet their obligation to frontline essential workers and provide back hazard pay. The summary says. Let's see what he says. This has to be good, or else I'm going to be pissed, because I know more people on unemployment benefits are making way more money than people on the front line. Essential workers, who are disproportionately Black, Latino, and Asian American and Pacific Islander, have risked their lives to stock shelves, harvest crops, and care for the sick during the crisis. The summary of this relief package says, they have kept the country running and even during the darkest days of the pandemic, but a number of large employers, especially in the retail and grocery stores, have yet done little to nothing to compensate their workers for the risk they took despite experiencing bumper profitability. Not only that, but working hazardous conditions. The president-elect believes these employers have a duty to do the right frontline essential workers and acknowledge their sacrifice with a generous back hazard pay for risks they took across 2020 and up till today. The release summary says Biden and the vice president-elect will call on all CEOs and other business leaders to take action with these obligations. Yeah, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, he's not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything about it, okay? Nothing's going to happen, okay? It's not very promising at all. Yeah, that's all he says. He wants to slap them on the wrist and says, hey, you guys got to do this. Doesn't even talk about how much it has to be. Doesn't even talk about percentages. Doesn't even give numbers. And again, you have to compare. Like, I think this is how they should calculate the hazard pay. They should just, if you believe this virus is a big deal and you really are thankful for your employees and Americans who worked during the front line during the worst times of the pandemic, you should be giving whatever they would have made on unemployment benefits, and with the additional CARES Act, and then maybe the government can supplement some of that. These businesses can take out more loans because a lot of the businesses are taking out loans that they don't even need, that they won't have to pay back. But they definitely should be adding the CARES Act bonus or something, because It doesn't make any sense. Wasn't there like a proposed $10,000? Why don't they do that? Why don't why don't they do that? They're already printing all this money anyway, and all these businesses are going to take loans that they don't even need. It's all taxpayer money anyway. So I don't know. It doesn't seem this doesn't seem very promising to me. This seems very mediocre at best. It's probably going to be swept under the bus. I already see it. Yeah.